back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance, because a dance experience is an experience worth talking about. Today, I am joined by my lovely guest, the main crew from Hollins. This is my favorite group of people ever. And we will be discussing some of the things that we've all been trying to adjust to and adapt to during this quarantine as dancers and dance educators. So I have with me today Miss Alice Blumenthal. Mindy Rawlinson is back again. Audrey Barron and Courtney Cologne. Hey, everybody. So before we jump into everything, our quote for today's episode is from Maya Angelou. And she says, "If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be."
I'm here for it.
Normal's overrated. All right, my loves. So I have no real particular order for you, so we're just going to make it work. But I do want to start with you just kind of giving a short little background, bit of information on yourself for my audience, how long you've been a dance educator, and your teaching experience, meaning the level. So it was like preschool, K-12, higher ed, private studio, all that jazz. For the sake of, let's go alphabetical. Ooh, that was like math immediately. That was immediate math. That was like, oh, wait. Audrey, you're up.
We're always airplane buddies because we're a B together. I'm Audrey Barron. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a dance educator and artist here. I teach at UNC Charlotte as an adjunct professor. I also teach at Charlotte Ballet Academy and Open Door Studios. I direct a company called Barron Dance, run an apprentice program through that company as well. And I've been a dance educator for about 15 years, I think. And I'd say making work in the way that I consider the way I make work for about the past 10 years.
Alice?
All right. My name is Alice Blumenfeld. I am a choreographer, dancer, educator. Currently, I teach at Oberlin College and Cuyahoga Community College, just outside Cleveland, Ohio. And I also direct a flamenco dance company called Audrey, which I founded in 2016. And I have been teaching dance for 13 years, and I've taught in many different settings: private studios, colleges, public schools, K through 12, community centers, you name it. That's it.
Courtney.
Okay. I'm Courtney Cologne. I'm a working dance artist. I think I've been teaching for 15-ish years, and have also taught in tons of different settings, private studios, dance academies, dance therapy places, colleges, festivals, all sorts of things. And I perform, I create, teach, and write about dance.
Okay, and Mindy, go ahead. Talk, toot your horn, boo. Go ahead.
Okay, quickly. Mindy Rawlinson. I'm a dance artist and educator. I'm currently directing the dance department at West Boca High School, and I have experience teaching in private studios and at the university level as well.
Hey, and I just went through it with last week's episode, but just in all fairness, to say all the same things, I've been teaching for about 13, 17, I don't know, math years. It's in the teens. It's somewhere in there. I started before I graduated. And I've done K-12, all the levels in between of that. And I've also done private studio and am now doing higher ed. All right, so how has this quarantine been treating you? Because it's been pretty real for a lot of people. So, well, yeah, how's it been going? Not only just dealing with a new take on what life is right now, but we've all had to make some major adjustments in how we're approaching our craft now, be it through how we're creating, how we're sharing our work, and how we're teaching. So y'all can just jump in. I'm not going to keep making you go in alphabetical order.
I'll go since I started. It hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, really, going into it. It's certainly a different world and a different approach. I'm teaching online for UNC Charlotte, which I've really enjoyed, giving my students like different aspects of dance education that I haven't been able to in the studio. More history and theory and just talking about dance and online discussions, and also giving them the opportunity to take from a lot of other artists because there's a myriad of online dance classes out there now, and they're really enjoying it too. So that's something that I'm actually grateful for, that we all get to have this experience together. However, of course, like, we sorely miss that live feeling of being together in the studio, and but they're all amazing young people and handling it really well. As far as the private studio sector, I'm doing a lot of recorded classes and some live classes, and it's hard. I was really resistant to it at first, but it is what we have right now. So I'm just approaching it as like, okay, I get to move for an hour today, or 3 hours, or 4 hours, and we are where we are. Other than teaching, my company is just on hold right now. We just can't really move forward. We have a show scheduled in May, which isn't canceled, but it's likely. So we're just sort of in a holding pattern, and I'm trying to be fluid with whatever happens.
All you can be.
True.
I guess if we're still going in alphabetic order, I'll say it's been like a mixed bag for me. I was definitely doing way too much, like way too much. I didn't think I was going to have a single day off until May. I was teaching full-time at Oberlin, teaching a class at a community college, trying to start to get stuff going, teaching flamenco classes in Cleveland, teaching at a community center. I was working on a performance, and it's been really nice to pause and actually have time to reflect on everything, and really be present. And I guess, I'm disappointed that the performance I've been working on with my company since January was canceled, because they'd put a lot of time and energy into creating that work. So that's a bummer, but at the same time, I just feel like for the last few years, have been so like results driven that I haven't had the time or the space to like step back and reflect. So in that way, it's been really nice. And I've been spending a lot of time writing about dance and writing about my own process, and just kind of writing about the last 2 years, because I moved to Cleveland, outside Cleveland, a year and a half ago. So just finally having time to sit down and reflect on all that has happened has been really nice. But I'm also kind of losing my momentum. I moved all my projects to Cleveland, and I felt like the momentum was really building, and I had students excited about flamenco. I had a really great performance in Cleveland in February. So I just felt like all this momentum was building, and now it's just like nothing. So that's kind of like, how do I kind of deal with that? I'm teaching my college classes online, and I kind of, like Audrey, have mixed feelings about that, and I kind of pushed back a little. I just was like, oh, do we have to do this? Yes. But I've also enjoyed like incorporating dance history, dance criticism into classes that are otherwise just practice, and being able to get that perspective in for these students has been really fun, and just exploring dance in a different way. I've actually enjoyed kind of there's no pressure to teach them anything in some ways. It's like, as long as they learn something about dance and keep growing. So like that taking off of the pressure has actually, I think, been really great in my teaching as well. So.
All right, I guess I'll go. It's interesting that you say that, Alice, because I feel like more pressure to make sure that my students are engaged and still getting what through my lens I think that they need, what they want, what can help them grow. It's been kind of challenging. On the university level, like you guys said, I mean, theory is nice to talk about. You can establish really good dialogue. We've done some interesting things, having students create their own personal practice and then, sharing with all of us, so we can all kind of learn from each other. And then with the studio classes, man, it's rough because, they're only there for technique. So I try to do my best, teach as much technique as I can in their confined spaces. Certainly it's been modified to an extreme degree. But I do think it's necessary for them, because I think students in studios dance, their dance studio is their community, is their social kind of backbone, and they've been missing that. So I think it's important to kind of show up for them. But it's hard. It's really hard. And then also, we have a lot of pushback, I guess, from parents who don't want to pay tuition because their classes are online. And then that kind of begs the question, well, I am providing a service. We're still doing classes.
Yeah.
We should get paid for my service. So do we just not do them? And then what does that mean for our students? And if nobody pays tuition for the next 2-3 months, will the dance studio still be there when these kids get back? And they need them. They need to be able to go and work on their technique and mentally challenge and creatively challenge and all of that. And so it's been very interesting. It's a conversation that I don't see any clear answer to. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to all of you. But I think for me, the biggest challenge, like I've been able to adapt to moving and teaching through like Google Classroom, through the public school system to keep, my high schoolers engaged and to keep us in movement and with the theory and everything. And I've been okay with that and we're trying to. But the biggest challenge has been like moving through this like really heavy grief of loss. My high schoolers, this is like our first year of the dance department at this school, and we have spent the entire year preparing for our very first full-length evening of dance at this high school, and then to not see it kind of come to surface. Well, I will say I have seen it come to surface. I've had conversations with the students that we were at a really good place and they learned a lot through the process. So it's still very rewarding, but it's just to be able to share that with the public and with, the school was really like heavy to take on. And then every day I have this like internal struggle of like grieving physicality. Like I think when this all happened, I had just finished performing with Ballet Florida, like our big spring performance, and I was feeling like super strong, except I did get injured, side note. But, and so it's good that I'm resting right now. but on the other side of that, it's kind of like chasing this physicality that I'm not getting. And then on top of it, having this like injury that I'm healing from, like it's like every day I'm having to wake up and negotiate that, and then like still showing up for my students and still trying to show up for others who are doing these live classes, supporting other artists close to my heart, or then also having this pressure of feeling like, oh, I need to be watching these classes to see how everyone else is teaching. And it's just like, yeah, I agree with everyone with like the successes and the difficulties with all of this. But I think the biggest that I'm having to deal with is like just like moving through this kind of grief.
So to jump back a little bit, something you said, Courtney, dealing with, to me, how people place value on dance or the lack of placing value on it. That is something that, as y'all know, I have the two littles both dance. We 100% got the email from the studio that tuition still due. And I know that there were some people who were upset. They're like, well, they're not going and blah, blah, blah. And I may not have written it in the email because it would have come off how I meant it. But I will say very much high praise for the owner because she laid out exactly why these things are still due. She's like, this is still a business. The teachers who are providing the classes, we would like to be able to still pay them and keep them on. Like, we still have to pay the rent. As like, it is still a functioning business. So even though these are unprecedented times and we're all learning and adapting, some things are still constant, and we need to like be mindful of that. So I think the question that I have around that is, how much dialogue have you all been privy to or a part of, kind of centering around that? Because some people are offering free classes, which, hallelujah, yay. But some people are 100% like, yeah, but no, cash at me that, because otherwise you're not getting in. So just kind of finding that balance. What have been your experiences with the value being placed?
I mean, I think there's two sides. I think it's wonderful that the dance community, the art community, when it comes together in times of duress and gives back to the community and is generous and gives hope and movement and inspiration freely. But, I also think that artists have to eat and survive. And I think it's a continuation of a debate that we could have at any time. I mean, now we have it through the coronavirus lens, but I think we've always struggled as artists with maybe the general public's perception of the value of art. I don't think anybody thinks twice about partaking in a class or looking at something or reading something or whatever it is and doing it for free and not even having it cross their minds. Well, so that's what I've seen mostly, that kind of idea.
Yeah. I was having this conversation last night, and it's really tricky, and I like don't envy any like studio or academy owners position right now, because like that's super tricky and hard to navigate, and there's sort of I think like two approaches. It's like it still costs X amount, we have to pay X amount for rent, we're paying our instructors X amount, so no questions asked. But then it's also, people are struggling. One location I teach does a lot of adult classes, so a lot of adults are out of work or using in less work now, and we want to still provide the service for them. But then, like, do you just say pay what you can, or everything's free, or use your class card? And like, it gets really complicated for people who have means still and people who don't. And then like, who are you catering to? And then one of those groups is not going to be happy if you're doing all the things, offering all the things, all the ways. So it's tricky. Again, like, I don't know the answer to it, but it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of, kind of like relief going around, like financial relief, like through different organizations that are offering this kind of like, I don't know if it's like financial loans or something for like nonprofit organizations and small businesses. But when we think about where, in one town, how many dance studios there are, like, it's like, is that enough? And we can't rely on that. But yeah, it's so complicated to think like, where is this financial support coming from and who can we ask it from? And yeah, like Audrey was saying, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alice, go.
I'll say like one thing I've seen is like classes being like a little bit less expensive than they usually are. And that's something that like I kind of agree with, because it's like I've taken a few classes online and I just feel like I don't learn as much because there isn't that one-on-one feedback. You have a limited amount of space, but you are still taking class. And so I'm happy to pay like $5 less than a class would usually be. And that to me seems pretty reasonable. Like if it's a $15 class, usually they're charging $10. Because I think we have to acknowledge that it's not the same. It's not like, yes, the teacher's there for the same amount of time, and they put together material for the class, but are the students getting the same thing out of it? And should we ask them to pay the same amounts? Because they're just, it's not the same experience. Like there's that aspect, which like the classes I've taken, like Give Me Dance, kind of has like a sliding scale, like $0, $5, or $10. And so like usually their classes are $17, I think. So like $10 for one of their classes is pretty reasonable, I think. But that's kind of the middle ground, I guess, and something I as a student feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the headlines surrounding NYU, the dean of the dance department there, and how the students were kind of calling for their tuition back? It's interesting. And what she said, I mean, everybody knows the news because of her kind of wacky interpretive dance video that she attached to the email that she sent to the students.
Hey, wait, I don't know about this. Someone should fill me in.
Katie, listen. A bunch of students at Tisch, dance students, said, can we get refunded at least partial spring tuition, like you're saying, because it's not the same. You can't replicate bodies moving in space together. You just can't do that. And they received an email from the dean. I believe her name is Allison Green, maybe, basically outlining why they wouldn't be getting any tuition back. And she has some good points, like they do still have to pay the faculty, the janitors, for their studio space. That's all, and then at the end of the recording, she attached her a little interpretive dance. I guess she thought it was in solidarity, but the students did not take it as such. Interesting. But I mean, before that, what she outlined, it made sense, financially for the school. But yeah, if you pay all that tuition for NYU and then you're not getting your classes, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know.
I sent that to a class as an assignment, part of an assignment last week, and their general consensus was, her reaction was insensitive, and they understood the students' call to action to receive a partial refund. But they, as a whole, felt, if Tish does that, then it sets this precedent, and it's like, no one's getting a quality education right now. Like, it's just like, it's a season, and it'll pass. But like, if everyone starts giving refunds, then everything's just going to keep dropping. And I feel like it's just like a thing we got to just hold on to and write it out, like, and I don't mean it in the other ways that's been said, but, that's like another can of worms that can explode.
Yeah.
And we're still putting in the work, like especially at a college level, like instead of being hours in the studio, it's hours in front of a screen. It's almost double the amount of work and labor of having to think, how do I translate my teaching language and units from the studio to a screen through an interface to where then someone else on the other side can have this other experience that I can't necessarily see them having. Or if you can, you're limited to that square. And it's like, that again, I think connects to what Courtney was saying with his idea of like free labor. It's like, yeah, your tuition isn't maybe covering what you in your mind of what you want your experience to be, but we are in a state of crisis. And instead of throwing in the towel and all of us just being like, we can't survive this, we are pushing through, and we're, I think, as instructors and educators and even as artists, like still showing up in these other ways. And if you already had the means to pay tuition, then keep that commitment. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand like a housing, if they have to shut down dorms and you're no longer in the dorms, okay, then like give them back some money on housing. You know what I mean? Meal plans, things like that, if they're not physically on campus or for any like institution. But as far as tuition, I just feel like, things like education isn't canceled. It's not closed.
I think it literally takes, like, for me at least, like 3 times as much time at least for the online movement classes, because I have to rethink everything. Sometimes I have to refilm segments that I filmed because it didn't work if I'm doing it ahead of time. And then like for my Contemporary 1 class, now I have them doing journals and writing about their experience moving. So now I have 25 journals to grade every week that I didn't have before. And like, I mean, it's great. It's exciting. And I had fun, like being creative. Like, how do I keep them learning about contemporary dance? But it is like significantly more work, even though they don't see that.
And I think kind of back to one of the points that you made, Mindy, of that it may not be the experience that you wanted or expected it to be, but the same can be said when you show up on campus for a class for the first time, that it may still not be the experience that you wanted or you wanted it to be. And you kind of just have to power through and figure out how to make it work for you. And the biggest difference being is that we are all having to figure out how to make this work for us. I think my school did do the housing thing, that they're like, okay, they'll get a percentage of the housing back. I don't think tuition though, because we're still teaching. We are still expected to be grading work. We're still expected to have office hours, give assistance where needed. So it, like you were saying, Audrey, it would cause, like, that trickle down would be a waterfall. That would be Niagara. Like, it would be a bad scene to just say, you know what, here, take all this money back. That would cause more problems. I understand the concern, because if I'm thinking of the classes I'm in now, if I was going on campus to take those classes and then suddenly I wasn't, I would maybe feel a type of way. But thankfully mine were already online. They were just like, yeah, no, we're still in school. Ain't nothing changed for you. Paper's still due. And it's like, oh, okay. So part of me, and I tell my students, I was like, I do get it. I was like, I'm in school too. I get it. But at this point, we're all figuring it out. So in the same way that you're expecting us to give you grace in trying to figure out how to adapt to learning like this, yeah, give us that also, because we're trying to figure out how to teach in it. And then the people above us are trying to figure out how to run this whole show while dealing with it. And so that idea of we're all grieving, and there is a sense of loss that maybe not everyone is acknowledging, but it is there, that there's a sense of loss from what has been the norm, we can say. And there's not enough of acknowledgement of that aspect, that, okay, well, maybe pause for a second, let us process what's happening. It has been very much, at least in my experience, very much a figure it out. We gotta go. We gotta keep doing this. We can't afford to take a break. We have to keep everything running. We have to keep everything going. You're fine, Audrey. Like, my child's in the background screaming, so it's really okay.
Truly, I think something I was talking about with some of my colleagues, everybody is, as educators, everybody's kind of, because of technology, expecting us to go on business as usual, but it's not business. Nothing is normal. How is that possible? How can we adapt? We can adapt, but we can't. It's not going to be business as usual. You can, but the expectation is there, certainly.
That expectation, and I'm not saying that expectations should be lowered, but they should be shifted. That there are more things that we have to take into consideration now. One thing being, and I thought of you in particular with this, Mindy, because you have the younger students, accessibility. That's a conversation that I had with a group of my former colleagues from the school system. And knowing that some of my college students have issues with accessibility to the online instruction, I'm like, I know for a fact that has to be across the board. And I don't necessarily know how to address that besides giving as many options as possible. But have you all had any interactions with trying to navigate that?
So I'll say that in this state of crisis, I'm really impressed with the public school system that I work for. As soon as the decision was made that we were going to move to remote teaching and learning, they made sure that there was this 2-week time span where those families and students who don't have computers or Wi-Fi, that they came to the school and they had a super organized drive up to pick up Chromebooks. But this is something that my school just has for we have around almost 3,000 students, and our school has a lot of Chromebooks that go with our smart TV teaching boards in the classrooms. And so before we began teaching, we had complete through surveys and calling, we had a whole system of volunteers that would call people's, parents, guardians, students who needed what. And we made that happen to where every single student has a computer. And then our local internet providers have been providing free Wi-Fi to families that don't previously have it for the duration of remote instruction and learning. And so that kind of answers that accessibility question. But then what comes into complications now is that, within the first week, I wasn't using Zoom, but a lot of teachers and instructors were using Zoom. But then we were getting hacked by basically pedophiles trying to hack into these classrooms and inappropriately display things or whatever. And so it's not approved by the school board anymore, district to use. So now we have to, shift and use just stay in the Google Suite family. And Google's working with public schools to make sure that things are safe and that, and password and network protected. And so it's we're running we're running into these issues while also trying to problem solve at the same time. We can't predict what's going to happen because this is new for everyone, But I know for me, I have to be really sensitive of when I'm doing live meetings. I'm teaching live classes, but not with my high schoolers, because I understand that they can't control necessarily the space that they have. Some of them, I know have different living situations where they might not have the space to even stand and move, right? Or maybe their parents are still working and they have to watch their siblings during the day to make sure that their younger siblings are getting their work done, and then they can complete their work in the evening. So I try to remain sensitive and I try to meet with them through Google Meets once a week. Then I give assignments and I pre-recorded myself and uploaded on our Google Classroom, and then just have a due date. But again, I'm running into these issues where I get emails every day of these different complications that are coming up with these students that they're having to negotiate home life. And so, for some students, that deadline is much longer, or I adjust this assignment just for them. But again, it goes to what Alice was saying too, it's just kind of tripled the amount of work, which I'm willing to do because they keep showing up. I want to show up in that way for them, but it's just this complete. Exactly. I mean, I don't know, accessibility is huge. It's huge because we can't control the spaces that they're in. Yeah.
The only issue, it's not only, but the issue I've come in contact with is exchange students going back to where they are from, and different time zones, different accessibility issues.
Wow.
To not necessarily, well, in some cases to the internet, period, and in some cases to the platforms that have these dance classes that I'm suggesting. Thankfully, YouTube is universal and there's alternatives, but it's just something I didn't think about when when we started this, and I was like, oh great, there's all these things you can just access online. So of course I'm giving extensions and and lots of concessions to students that need them, but they've been also awesome. They're just how can I get this to you? I'm like, any way you can, whenever, it's fine. It doesn't have to be by Friday. Absolutely.
By May.
Yeah. May 9th. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, that's the only issue. I'm sorry. I have a delivery. Someone else go.
Well, what are you guys doing? What do you think about students that, regardless of accessibility, anything like that, just aren't bothering to show up? What do you do with those kids?
I just had this conversation a couple days ago.
They're just
because the thing that we discussed was that you can't necessarily prove that now. If this was a student who was not showing up before, then I could say, here, look, they're not present. They haven't been here. They haven't been doing anything. That was provable. But now in this situation, unless we are going door to door and checking, we can't prove it. And so it burns my spirit. I hate exempting things. I'm like, nah, man, I need you to do this work though. But I do understand, my other dance teacher friends, they were like, well, no, for those, if they haven't turned it in, we exempt it, because if they were already not doing the work, the grade is going to reflect that in the end, even if you have the exemptions. There's nothing you can do. Still stresses me out, because then on the flip side, you have those who they are really doing everything they can to make this thing work. Like Audrey was saying, they're like, okay, is it okay if I email it to you because it's not uploading to Google Classroom? Is it okay if I send it in 2 parts? I'm like, baby, just send it. Like, whatever you got to do.
Send it in a letter. I don't care.
Right?
Stamp on it.
Like, whatever you need, just get it to me. And
Raisin, I
it's
don't know.
fine. Like, get it to me by May. May 1st, you're good. Like, we're okay. So, but yeah, that has been weird. Because I do have a few that I'm just like, so you're just not going to turn in any of it? Like, nothing. Like, not a single, no questions have been asked. So it's not, I don't know if it's I don't know what's happening, I can't get in. But the school said that they sent stuff out to them before they were like completely sent away, that, you know, if there's an issue, you know, these are the ways we can help, but you have to let us know. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten no notices. So I'm working under the impression that all of my students are able to have at least some type of access. And some of them just ain't doing it. And their grade will reflect it as such, because I'm not doing pastel. You're going to get an A, B, C. F. Like, we're not.
I mean, so at Oberlin, the Student Senate tried to pass something, I guess, to switch all the classes to pass-fail. Mm-hmm. And they, like, I was kind of like, why did the administration even, like, take this seriously? This is ridiculous. But they did, and they sent out a formal email that was like, no. We're not doing everything pass-fail.
We had the same thing. They sent that out. They were like, no, you're getting letter grades. And I was like,
yeah, and I just, you know, their reasoning they explained was like, there are students who are stepping up and being flexible and doing the work, and they deserve a good grade. And the people that worked really hard the first half of the semester deserve a good grade. And it's not fair to them to just make it all pass-fail. And I definitely agree with that.
I agree too, because they did ask for faculty input, and I was like, I will grade them. Like, I don't, because there are those who, from the beginning, they've been doing the work, and even now they're doing everything they can. And like I always tell them, I'm not looking for perfection, I'm looking for effort. Yeah. So are you trying to apply the concepts and skills that I'm teaching? Yes, we're in different spaces now and trying to make it work. Okay, modify it. If you're like, you know what, I can't do that jump there. I don't have the space for that. Then I'm like, okay, do a quick little releve, pretend, move your arms, do what you need to do to just show me that you understood that jump went right there. And then just keep it moving. But yeah, no, it to me is not fair for someone who is legitimately doing everything they can to just get a pass. I'm like, no, if you did A work, you did A work. If you did B work, you did B work. I mean, and then there's, you know, there's always the concern of the accessibility in the back of my head when I say that. There's always that concern that I'm like, okay, but there could have been that one who was really trying and just stuff wasn't working out. And I get that, but I also don't like doing pass-fail.
I also think it's easier in a college setting to expect everybody to be there. If you're talking about K through 12,
that's much harder.
That aren't showing up, especially because everything's foundational. I feel at that point, and you build, and so if you miss a whole chunk of time, like, that's going to affect you. I just worry. I worry.
Yeah.
It keeps me up at
I
night.
know. No, it's true. Like, I know for us, for high school, like, we are following our same schedule. And that means, you know, even if things are self-paced, we are required to put something into place where we take attendance during those hours that we would be meeting. So for me, so we do block scheduling, so we have even and odd days. And during those times, like, if you have that 7:30 a.m. class, I'm posting a question on Google Classroom and they're expected to answer it. And it's, for me, you know, it was like, what's your favorite song to dance to? Like, something really simple for them just to log on. It can take a minute, answer it, and then that's how I'm taking attendance. But again, I think, like, I'm really lucky with the students that I have, like, that they are showing up. But I do know that is an issue with these other classes. And so then I know we're instructed that if you haven't seen a student, you haven't heard from a student, you reach out to the guidance counselors. And then they are responsible for kind of like an intervention if they need to like go by the house or call every single number that they have just to check to see if that student is okay. Right. But yeah, I do think that that's happening, that students are not showing up because they also like, who knows what, again, the home life situation is. And some parents that do have to go to work or some parents that aren't going to work are all navigating a lot. And this kind of remote learning has a lot of self-accountability that takes a certain amount of maturity that some students aren't there yet, or like shouldn't be expected. But then now we're in this state of crisis that it's like, yeah, they have to now have this kind of accountability to continue. It's tough.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from a lot of students is, they're just exactly what you just said. Like they're stressed and they don't have the tools to schedule their day in the way that they used to be scheduled. I think a lot of administration is just expecting students to just stick to their schedule. You have this at this time and this at that time. And that's like in an ideal world. And for like a super regimented person, that's just not most of college students or younger. So we're trying to be really compassionate with them and like really make it as easy for them to succeed through this semester as we can. Like I'm trying to think about finals and like what is going to be the best for them to do, like that's helpful and fun and engaging and is also like holds them accountable for something. But not just like busy work, which is what I'm hearing is a lot of professors in other departments are just giving them busy work, just with the assumption, oh, you have all this time on your hands now. Like you have plenty of time to do this, extra work, when it's like the opposite. They are grieving and they need time to like figure their life out in this like pot they've been thrown in.
You're a good teacher because you see your students as human beings, but not all teachers do.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. And I'll just say that my institution, they're giving the option for pass fail. So if a student thinks they are going to fail or close to failing, then they can take a pass fail. But again, I'm trying to like give them all the heads up and all the tools that I can to be like, you're going to make it. Just take your B. It's fine.
Wild.
Yeah. It's, has just been very for everybody. This is the best way. Like there's no words. So kind of looking forward, I will now ask you our ultimate dance trio question, because it does deal with the future. I know. Usually people are not excited. Thanks, Mindy. I appreciate it. People do not be excited for my questions. So looking forward, what are 3 changes you would like to see take place once we return to quote unquote normal dance instruction? Now, by that, face Courtney, it's all right, but you got this. You got it, sis. You got it. So by that, if there's anything that you're like, okay, well, this is something that has come about that I think is working well, I would like to see that continue. Or if it's something you're like, this has been a complete and utter shit show. This is what should have happened. And I think that seeing it go wrong should show people how to do it correctly. So from any of those angles, but 3 things, 3 takeaways that you would like. I love you, Courtney.
I mean, 3, like it has to be a hard 3, truly.
Yes, it does. Ultimate dance trio. Trio.
Can it be a joint effort? Can we make 3 between the 4 of us? I have 1.
Try for 3 each, and then we'll see how far we get.
All right, well.
High expectations.
Alphabetical order, let's go.
Don't do Audrey like that. Wait.
Well, I mean, I'll throw out my 1, and then maybe that'll spark something else. I mean, jumping off what I just said, like just checking in on students' mental wellness is like something that we didn't do well enough before, and I think we're realizing we need to do in and out of crisis. Like a lot of them have a lot of shit going on, and like, they're not just the students of universities that there were 15 years ago. It's a lot of
Sure.
different people with different histories and lives, and just, to check in with them once in a while or every class and say, how are you doing? And if they're like, I can't today, to give them a little bit of leeway, and just like a pass once in a while. And I think that's just, they will make it more enjoyable and productive for all of us, instead of just, making all these like super data driven rules and, about numbers and attendance and scores. And, we know this as artists, but still in like a lot of institutions, we have to adhere to these things. And I think there's a lot of factors that aren't data driven.
I mean, for some students, school is the escape, right? If their home is in crisis, we're there. We're more than just teachers, we're a comfort. So that's a really important point. That should be one. Yes. One overarching one.
One.
Community one. Okay. Oh my
God. Mine are really selfish compared to Audrey's, but to just like do less and like take my time and not just do things to do them. Like, oh, I have to get another show. I have to do this performance. I have to get that. But like really take the time to move slowly, make work slowly so that it's just more engaged, I guess. And then I like taking online classes, even though I think they're not the same as real classes. I got to take class with Mindy. I got to take class from a woman I studied with for many years in New York City, Lori DeVito, and it was just so nice to like refresh on her movement style. And it's not the same as real class, but it's nice to have access to all these artists all over the country. And I don't want to see classes move online, but to every once in a while have an online class with someone you want to take class with and you live in a different city is kind of awesome. So
Options.
Yeah, and to connect with people that you haven't, that have moved, and like I just said, a former student of mine from UNC Charlotte took my class Wednesday, and it was a total surprise, and she lives in Chicago now, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I would never have interacted with you unless for this moment, So is that a second one? Is that two? I don't know.
That's two.
We'll count it as two. It counts.
I would say maybe ingenuity. I always tried to teach thinking outside the box, especially coming from the graduate program that we came from. I think I was always kind of trying to look at new ways of teaching, but I think out of necessity, is bred originality, creativity for myself, and then even for the students. How their perspectives change, how they can problem solve. I want to kind of challenge them in that way, maybe a little more, to just adapt, modify, and create in an original avenue, an original way. So.
Yeah, I have so many desires about the future. That I kind of want this to like, I'm just going to use some metaphors, not to like eat up a bunch of time, but to like kind of clean house. Like I kind of want this to clean house within the professional dance field and to see like kind of what's crumbling right now and what are the possibilities of a emergence. Like I've had conversations with all of you about like hopes and outcomes, but I just really want to see some radical change about who we're giving permission and access to in the professional dance realm, and to see that it can be taken away so quickly, and that some of these larger entities of our professional field are getting hit, like, financially. And these aren't struggles that, like, financial struggles aren't new to some of us that aren't maybe with those bigger, anyways. I just hope that we clean house a little bit. That's it. Is that to be number 3?
Yeah, I mean, Mindy and I have been working on an article together, kind of where we're talking about that, how something radical is happening, and why. I mean, it's going to impact every facet of everyone's lives, and why can't we use that as a chance to liberate some artists and to give new artists, individual artists, maybe a voice.
Yeah.
You said it's an article?
Yeah.
That will be published when and where?
Next week, I imagine, ish.
Next week, through DIY Dancer magazine.
Okay, so I'm gonna need y'all to, like, actually really put it out there when it happens, okay?
We will.
No under the radar publications. Like, please put it out so we can all read and I can also share it.
Definitely.
Please and thank you, because y'all are extra fancy. That all 4 of you are, like, excellent writers. Side note.
You are too, Truly. What are you talking about?
Truly's getting her PhD. Hello.
I know. I'm like, isn't Truly writing papers?
Wait. This is not about me.
Like 14 papers a week.
Oh my God. No, it has been. Every time I'm writing something, though, I think of y'all, because I'm just like, the crew would say I could do this. Okay.
Can.
I'm just going to suck it up and do this. Of which I will say, just having had the opportunity to read writings from each of you has helped inform how I do write. So I do thank you. I want to be on record as saying that to the whole world, particularly dance analysis, because I was not good at that. EZ tore me up in that class. I got the business all the time. Got the business all the time. Yo. So I will say thank you, because you guys have gotten me through a lot of struggles that you didn't even know you were getting me through. Because I was just in my room crying and thinking of you. But, all right. Any other things you want to add to? We'll let it be a community trio. Y'all messing it up. I blame Courtney. Everything's Courtney's fault now. I've decided it's fine. Community trio. It's fine.
Just want to say thank you, Truly, for letting us come on here and to have these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. This is awesome. Yeah, I love what you're doing.
So, do any of you have any social media plugs you would like to throw out there? Because I want to promote you as much as possible because you're all extra fancy and doing fancy things.
I'll go.
We're just going to keep going alphabetical.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I plug all the time. So my personal Instagram is at Audie Baran, AUDIBARAN. Is that my name?
Yes.
And then my company Instagram is at Baran Dance, BARAN Dance. So I do a lot of things on there.
My personal website, Instagram, all of that good stuff is my name, ALICEBLUMENFELD. And my company is Audrey Paso, Instagram, Facebook, website, ABREPASO.
Guess it's my turn. I would say the best thing to do would be go through my website because, as Alice said, everything's connected through that. So that would just be my name, CourtneyCologne.com. So COURTNEY. And then Cologne, which is spelled like colon, COLON.com. And then if you want to check out any of my writing, you can go on the Philadelphia Dance Magazine, where I usually drop my articles in.
My Instagram is m.rawlinson, RAWLINSON, and I have a website that is about to emerge, and I'll just put my link in my Instagram bio.
Awesome. Sounds great. So again, thank you all for being here. I love talking with you as always. And thank you all for catching yet another episode of Dance Talk Realness. Please make sure to follow, subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Dance Talk Realness across all of those platforms. If you want to leave comments, it is best to usually leave them under the Instagram page because I'm more likely to see that there and on YouTube instead of Facebook. But you can check us out on all three. And I look forward to continuing to bring you fresh new content. See you next time. Bye.